Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Nature Folklore Sessions. It's 12th of September 2021, and I've just arrived last minute on the spot, so transitions are starting off rather bluntly. So here we go. We're off. Well, here I am. I'm in Claire's garden today. Trees behind. This is Claire's Sanctuary, tree sanctuary. To the right, it's off of camera. It might be to your left. We do have trees that go in brown and yellow. But thank you for joining us today. It's our weekly time of exploring nature-centered folklore, connecting this within your favorite sanctuary space, and expressing your inspired visions from your sanctuary through your poetry, writing, arts, crafts, performance, and problem solving. And I didn't check the equipment before I came on, so I hope you're seeing and hearing me. So please put that in comments to confirm that everything's working, because I didn't get a chance to make a check. I just ran to the table and started broadcasting for you. So this afternoon is Tree Sanctuaries. It's our autumn gathering, and here's the logo for that, just to remind you what we got going. And this is a kind of, I suppose, a social presentation. It celebrates your favorite and essential sanctuaries amongst trees. So if you've got photos on hand, I might be able to slip them in. Just put them through Messenger, and I can perhaps put them on board a bit later on, as well as being a presentation by some lovely guests. I'm going to do an encore of some of the benefits of the trees that you got around your tree sanctuary, and the benefits overall to your landscape that your tree sanctuary may well and truly have. So the guests today, we got wonderful poets and storytellers. Most of them are in their sanctuary spaces, and the people we got a return of near local neighbour to mine, Sinead McClure, outstanding poet, and she'll be among her trees that she has a huge passion for. And we got Chandler Nichols, who I see has popped up in the background. She's going to do an introduction, and I've got some video clips of her out in her favourite woodland. And something unique, Kate Burrows is back. She was around this time last year, I think. And her and Alan, who's an incredible miracle maker with the things that he makes. And together they've got an incredible new sanctuary that is people have been to already for workshops, celebration, and it's a great peaceful place for themselves. And the creation was helped by her sons. Alan did a lot. You'll see in the video, and Kate herself, fantastic what they do on their land. And then we got a fascinating man, Simon Masters, quite delightful eccentric. Short piece from him, very short piece. And then we've also got Bards in the Woods joint founder, Edward Duran. He's going to encore a poem. He's done a re-recording of a poem that's really quite spot on for today. So that's who we got here. And these Nature Folklore Sessions, as you see from my banner here, they helped along, and the Carrowcroy Labyrinth Gardens. And thank you for the support, because I was in a bit of a tight fix to keep things going, and several of you have come to help. A lot of you will be watching today, so huge gratitude for that. And that does include next week, hopefully, a bit better camera and audio that you'll be getting on the Sundays as well. So thank you, subscribers, Patreon subscribers, your continued support, because without it, I wouldn't have been here. And do you know what? I just realized it was getting warm here, and I haven't put the usual. There we go. Now I look complete, don't I? So let's see who's joined us today then. We got a few people here, which is fantastic. Lovely. I'm glad that you've taken some time from here. Jermaine Jensen's, I can see and hear you loud. Thanks for telling me. And I don't think you've been on before if you German. Lovely to see you here. Alan's here, of course. He's always here from Kildare. Thank you for being here. And German's saying, I love working with storytellers. I accompany them on the harp. Well, there we go. That's. I have to contact you. We do have bardic sessions in November, and Claire wrote she was here. She's tuned in, and she'll be joining us because this is Claire's garden here. And these trees behind, you can't see much because they're so tall. They're hundreds of years old. They're very established. A mixture of cedar and there's oaks here. Order. What else? I know there's some jays. I wish I could find. There's some jays fighting over an oak here, and I think the oak has got lots of acorns, and the jays absolutely love the acorns, and they bury them. And they forget where they put them. They're like the squirrels, and that's one of the reasons we actually have oak woodlands today. And Sherry's come on board, which is lovely. Gardens are beautiful. She's saying that's for Claire. And Andrew Nielsen, good morning from Connecticut, from the United States. So you're all, I know Edward's here. He's you're going to get him from later from Sligo. Thank you, all of you that are here for now, which is fabulous. So I can get started with the show, which is the best thing to do here. And now in between guests, I'd love to share with you. I've done this when we've had tree sanctuary meetings, so this is a bit of an encore, and I think it's quite important and valuable to repeat them. I'm going to share with you some of the 21 reasons that trees and forests are important to us. And there's no better way than starting this from your own tree sanctuary rather than a project that you might plan on your spreadsheet and you go out and do a massive planting project. And I'm going to say a few words about the difference between having your own sanctuary and going out on a mass planting. Very different attitude and approach. And this is taken from a profound article originally. I took this from an article. It was in treehugger.com. So I should have some sort of tree hugger picture. There's a nice tree hugger picture for you. That's because hopefully this is a tree huggers edition. Now, I'm not going to cover as many reasons as I have done in other tree sessions, but I'm going to share a few pointers from those 21 that I regard as being perhaps the most intimate and the most important. And I hope you find that as well, too. Now, these reasons, as I say, I'm going to adapt the benefits when I talk of them within your tree sanctuary rather than try and be a theorist. There will be some theorist sort of plans up in the pictures, but you'll see that. But before I go through some of these 21 points, I'd like to talk a little about the suggested changes that I feel that we need to make. And having your own tree sanctuary, whether it's something you've planted yourself or a place that's already planted that you go to, or maybe you've had help in planting this, a local neighborhood, something like that. But it's regarding our attitude, as I was saying, and the expectations that we have of tree planting. I suppose because of the media, we're in a bit of a panic. So we think we've got to plant 1 million trees tomorrow to save the planet. But there's huge problems with that. And first, the one thing we ignore with tree planting, right, I'm going to go out with my friends and plant a few million trees. What about natural regeneration? When I was doing this last year, I was doing a fundraiser for the land that was around the cottage was up for sale. A local farmer did buy it. And I haven't seen him since. I've wanted to talk to him and doing the negotiations. But what's happened is the piece of land from that trying to secure from him for a native woodland. What's actually happened, there's no rush because that piece of land, for some reason, the rest of the farm is staying as a farm. But this piece of land that I had my eye on is actually turned into a natural regenerating plantation. I might have some pictures or two later on. Let's see if I've got a picture with the way it is now. And I think it's absolutely fabulous. I'm in no rush because he seems to be in no rush. That's what's happened. That was bog. and a couple of years ago, and it's just obviously the birch have got in there, willows, there's some alders in there, there's holly that's crept up. So this is what's happening, and this is natural regeneration. And I think we perhaps have lost trust in how powerful this is. We can do so much just by letting nature do its own way. Let's trust how it's actually doing. And I think that's important in the tree sanctuary. And I've learned that with the tree labyrinth this year, because I've got this long COVID thing, can't do as much as I was. So what's happened in the tree labyrinth, I'm trying to keep the paths ordered, but nature has brought in all kinds of different trees and plants, and I'm leaving there because they've integrated with what I've planted in there, and it's making it a much more shared sanctuary. It's absolutely beautiful, and I wouldn't like it to go any other way. It's a real gift. It's fantastic. So I think that's an attitude. Rather than think we got to plant 1 million trees, let's think of where can we have where nature can do its own thing. Where I was talking about the jays fighting over the acorns, and they're going to plant them to allow jays a space to do that. Allow squirrels a space to do that. Allow the rabbits, they're very good for that. And also for the wind. The wind takes stuff, and the trees stop the seeds in the wind, and boom, they come down. And it's fascinating. And someone I was talking to a couple of days ago, they were it was Sinead, and she's going to talk about that in a video, that they planted a load of oaks on their land, and they planted birches, and unfortunately the oaks didn't quite make it. Birches did, because forests start with the birches quite often. But what they found themselves is the same thing, the regeneration. In has come the alder, in has come the willow, and they're probably going to get hawthorn. And then eventually the oaks will have a position. They'll say, oh, we love this. We want to be part of this community. So the oaks will be part of it. So really, I think the message here is that if we have a tree sanctuary rather than a big plan, and this is why I don't like things to be centralized, we get a little bit ambitious, and this is what happens. You might have seen this lovely tree circle. I forget where it is. I think it's in Wales somewhere. You might be able to tell me. But the poor man, he planted these oaks, I think they are, or are they ash, and they're dying on him. Yet all the other trees around are perfectly happy. So don't be too ambitious. Let nature in. Let it have its way. And I think there's a huge problem with plantations. We try to control them. Our intentions are good. We think, we can save the planet by having a lot more oxygen. Let's get those trees out. Let's rush it, because in 10 years' time, we're going to have all this extra oxygen. No, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. I'm not going to go into it with this program, but generally these mass plantations, 75% of the trees die anyway. Only 25 survive. And you might think, that's 25 more than before. But there's environmental problems happening because of the 75% dying. Now, allow that space for natural regeneration and put some of your own favorite trees. You can still do your own contribution, but don't try to control it all. That's I suppose, that's my bit of preaching, I suppose, for today. So with those two things in mind, what do we interpret as being a tree sanctuary for us? And how do we become a living part of our chosen tree sanctuary? So our first video guest this afternoon is from Simon Masters. And this is his recital of an interpretation of a Wendell Berry. Have I got a thing of Wendell Berry? Anyway, the next picture I got, what is a tree? That's supposed to come up. Right. There's Wendell Berry. That's a tree sanctuary before, by the way. There we go. Anyway, there we go. Is that your idea of a tree sanctuary? And there's Wendell Berry. And and I see that Edward's still there on the screen. Brilliant. Right there. Well, let's get the things moving along. I'm trying to get to right now. Simon has a lovely rural setup near Wellington in Somerset. It's called the Field of the Study. I haven't got many photos. It's quite wonderful. I've seen a video of it, but so his videos are quite thin on this. But that's a sort of a site, and it's a fascinating place. He hasn't got a website. It's just word of mouth, but he gets a lot of people going. It's a learning space for rewilding and permaculture. It's large, and it's amazing what he's done in a short space of time. And there, he and his team, they've managed, they've got wild ponds, they got wild woodland, they got pollination areas, they got lovely wild natural regenerated woodland areas. And then on the other side of the spectrum, they've got permaculture projects and regular ones that you would do. They've sort of certainly planned the tall trees and the fruit trees and down to the garden, but they've got polytunnels as well. And they've gone into the extremes of doing tropical gardens in their polytunnels, and they've even got treetop roof gardens. I wish I had the photos of those. But Simon's not in the woods or in the pond for this video clip, and he's in his fairly rustic home, if I can find a video of it. And so I'd like to share it with you. Yeah, this is different. This is very different for us. So this is a little minute from Simon Masters reading a bit of Wendell. And he's just woken up, I think.
The Piece of Wild Things by Wendell Berry. Read by Simon Masters. Sabbath Poem 4. The year relents, and free of work I climb again to where the old trees wait, time out of mind. I hear traffic down the road, engines high overhead. And then a quiet comes, a cleft in time, silence of metal moved by fire. The air holds little voices, titmice and chickadees, feeding through the treetops, among the new small leaves, calling again to mind the grace of circumstance. Sabbath economy, in which all thought is song, all labour is a dance. The world is made at rest, in ease of gravity. I hear the ancient theme in low, world-shaping song, sung by the fallen stream. Here where a rotting log has slowed the flow, a shelf of dark soil, level laid above the tumbled stone. Roots fasten it in place. I will be here a while. What holds it here decays. A richness from above brought down is held and holds a little while in flow. Stem and leaf grow from it. At cost of death it has a life. Thus falling founds, unmaking, makes the world. Thus falling founds, unmaking, makes the world. At cost of death it has a life.
Well, that's a wee bit of Simon Masters. I've been trying to find an excuse to get him on board, because though he has people and does wonderful thing on his land, he's a little bit of a hermit in himself. So that was wonderful to get a little bit. Let's see who's joined us and what they're saying at the moment. Among you here. Andrea Nelson here. Wonderful book by Tom Wessel, Reading the Forested Landscape. It's geared towards New England. It's a resource. The one thing I would say, as people on this show know, that I would say, try and do the tree sanctuary around you before following the rule book, before following stuff on the book. I think the books are great for inspiration and for ideas. But the one thing I feel is you can spend a lot of time reading books and planning, and you don't have a tree sanctuary. Or you may do if you've got space for a tree sanctuary and you're actually looking through the books and drawing out plans and so forth. Nature will make that woodland for you anyway. So it can work both ways. But thank you for the recommendation, because we do feature books on here sometimes. So that's a great one. But I still advise, get to your tree sanctuary and be part of it before you trying to be an extension of the book. It's a beautiful thing to do. And then Chandra is saying, she's going to be on shortly, forest is so highly interconnected. When we cut forests down and replace them with trees alone, we cannot possibly replicate the network that a forest truly is. Huge subject, and we cover that over several weeks, but it's a very profound thing. And funnily enough, I don't think it's in the pointers I was going to say today. So thank you very much for Chandler about the networking, the fungi, the brush animals. They play a key role in the forest there. And one thing, if you notice, if you ever see diagrams and people talk about the social networking of the forest, the anyway, the web of the forest. Notice that all those diagrams, they show the interconnecting happening underground. And yet soon as a plant, especially trees, they get above the ground, they're sprouted, and there's the sun. And there's the sun that they need because of the photosynthesis with the rain. So suddenly all this network that's underground suddenly becomes competitive, and the trees are fighting for that light, and they can actually be quite brutal. So it's quite interesting how you get a yin and yang symbolism, because they say the feminine being the underground, being the dark, and the male, the philosophy, being the light and the sun. And of course, I brought this up when in the Sensing Herbs edition, went into that in relation to plants. So thank you very much for that, Chandler. We'll be chatting to you very pleasantly, and Edward definitely got something to say. Trees are inexplicably part of an ecosystem. They can't exist alone, only when they choose to. I know one tree that does seem to choose to be alone quite often, I find, is the rowan. You can go up a mountainside, and for some reason they love being amongst the woodlands and trees. But you go up mountainsides and the trees can't start thinning, of course, when you go up the hills. What's the highest tree? The rowan, and they seem to just love being there by themselves. But yeah, definitely, I think for Edward, that's they're not really happy to be alone. But even that lone rowan, is going to have the roots. That roots is going to have a huge biodiversity, even though we may see some barren rock and there's not much else life on the surface. But any wandering mammals, any birds, they're going to appreciate that rowan there. So it's still integrated, but maybe not with other trees, but with other life. And Claire was peaceful and evocative. Simon there, Claire enjoyed that. Let's see, we've said about the book. Thank you, German, and thank you for your hospitality, Claire. That's someone very familiar with Claire. You must be German. Thanks very much. There's a hook up there, and we got regular Donna Johnson who's here. Absolutely fabulous. Thanks very much for all you joining us. This is turning into quite a session, isn't it? I'm enjoying this. Thank you very much for those who've taken part. Anyway, so let's get on with a few things here. Some of the reasons that I always forget to knock comments out. Excuse me for that, to block your way there. So there's a few things to consider from what I've extracted from Tree Hugger, and someone is sending me a text. Is this one of you, or is it a spam call? Must see just in case it's an urgency. Right, okay, that's a spam call. So I'll move on, and so let's take the heart, walk in the woods and listen. That's what you would do, I hope. Get the lovely magic whispers from your tree sanctuary. And the one thing, well, move on, let's see. Well, we were talking about the underground and the networking, biodiversity. There we go. 50% of all life is in the forest. Half, definitely more than half, all the life. And I always regard the she, some say the fae, as representative of that life, moving through that wonderful chi of life. And it's there in the forest, more than half of it, the existing forest we got on this planet. And the forests are home of 80% of the species. You know, we humans like to have species, don't we? So we label the species, but 80% of those is what we call biodiversity. There it is in the woods today. And so another thing as well is the trees create rain. And the non-forest farmland and our gardens, they all depend on that rain. There's no getting away from it. And trees, they prevent flooding, trying to get some more things. This is one of the first my diagram things I got up for you. There's a little explanation of the flooding. And mature tree can soak up to and hold 300 gallons of water a day. Imagine how that can prevent flooding. You get mature trees, and once a tree's been in there for 10 years or more, it does a wonderful job. And then from the rain, the trees serve us with canopy, and that's useful for water storage. And then when there's evaporation when the sun comes out, and it's there as we need it. And also the trees keep us cool. I've noticed this in cities. When I lived in Florida, around Ormond and Daytona, they insisted on more trees going up, but just to keep properties cool and keep us all cool, because urban trees help buildings stay cool. They reduce the need of electric fans and air conditioners. It's amazing the effect they have, especially in a tropical area. But the one thing, Karakori, is how the trees stop. Well, that's to do with the protection, isn't it? The trees from keeping cool. But this is a thing. Stop erosion. If you've got some eroding land, I highly suggest get a lot of water out there. They're wild, a lot of the plants, and they have a very tight root system that hold back the soil, stop erosion, plus they're nitrogen fixers, so they really add to the fertility of the humus of your soil. And the forest roots, there's another thing, stop erosion. There's a diagram for that. And forest root network stabilizes the soil, and as I say, it protects erosion that can happen by wind, water, landslides. They're awful, and dust storms, of course. There's a lovely project up along the Moray coast where there's a lot of sand dunes, miles and miles of beach and sand dunes. Then we're having a problem with windstorms, and of course in Scotland the natural thing is pines, and the pines have done a fantastic job in holding back the sand. And then of course with the pines there in come the birch and holly, and there's a whole range of trees. Fantastic job. They started, I think it was Harold Wilson who put the first pine trees in when he was Prime Minister of the UK. So trees, they block wind, which is a very valuable thing, because especially to farmers. The many benefits as they act as trees as a windbreak. And that's great, because cereals are they can be tender, and a serious wind can screw up a cereal crop. So trees forming a barrier for cereals and others crops is wonderful. And then, of course, it's great. It makes it easier for the bees to pollinate. If you've got the trees, and then you've got the hedge, and you've got the wildflower area, the bees can actually be comfortable in their germination if they're protected from the wind. When there's wind, you're not going to get the germination, especially of the fruit as well. And also birds and bats, they love using the trees for their own sanctuary. Owls and foxes, and they eat the rats. And too many rats would eat the cereals and the crops, so the trees give a home to the owls and the foxes. So this is it. You just join in with nature. Anyway, I'm going to get on to the next guest. Patiently waiting, got up very early this morning, and let's get some little headphones on. Waiting in the studio there, we have Chandler Nichols, because we got 3 poems from her, and she's going to do an introduction. Let's get you on the stream. There you go. Good morning there, Chandler.
Good morning, John.
I love the sun stream on your... It looks very unique.
The sun always comes through, and every morning from the east here, so not much to...
Right, I've got to find out where you are. I got so many things lined up here. Let's find out where you are on my listing here. All right, okay. Yes, and give some insight to these wonderful works you brought to us this week, Chandler.
Of course, and thank you, as always, for sharing some of my poems here. I was really excited to hear that we were going to be talking about tree sanctuaries today. This is a subject I'm quite passionate about, as I've had personal experience with a very special tree sanctuary that unfortunately is no longer here. But you'll kind of hear the story of my tree sanctuary and the 3 poems that will be shared today. But it was through this tree sanctuary that I really learned all of the lessons that I needed to be where I am today. I think trees are the most valuable teachers that we could possibly have. They can teach us anything from the arts to the spiritual, and speaking languages that really use more of a heartfelt and a soul-felt communication. There's more ways to communicate than by words alone. So spending time in these tree sanctuaries, it's more than becoming or realizing our part in nature. It's more so connecting our souls to the spiritual world around. And so one particular tree in my sanctuary, this little picture shows up. This was my tree, and I called him Virgil. And if you're familiar at all with Dante's Inferno and Purgatorio, Virgil was the guide of Dante as he traveled through hell and purgatory. But my tree sanctuary has inspired a lot of poetry and a lot of personal growth as well. And the only other thing I'll share with you is my green man I made. And this was actually created from a cutting of my tree Virgil that, of course, is no longer here. But all the more reason to share this story with you all, and hopefully share the importance of what trees truly mean to us, what we can gain from them and give to them, and the value of tree sanctuaries.
Oh, that's fabulous. So we'll kick off with the first of your 3 poems, and I'll come back to you in a minute, but this one is 5 Trees. Chandler Nichols on 5 Trees. There we go, and hopefully it will play.
The 5 Trees. Once there was a silver grove, with 5 masters, 4 of a kind and 1 oak, to which the flowers and grasses made their host. The 4 wore silver capes and leafy crowns, the 5th a robe of ivy that draped to the ground. These 5 wise ones were masters of the garden grown, for around them grew flowers in a colorful palette, wherein danced the bees and slept the rabbits. Wild berries and fruits fed the wildling children, whilst their branches and roots cradled sapling kinsmen. These 5 wise ones were master bards, for in the winds they sang their poetry of soulful love and mortal tragedy. And 1,000 years of 10,000 stories were inscribed within their wooden rings. These 5 wise ones were masters of art, for they were the first to bud pink and white in the spring, and last to drop golden leaves, while in summer they were richly green, and in winter shone silver like the moon queen. These 5 wise ones were masters of the divine, for they translated the words of the green man, god of the wood, fawn. On winged seeds sent the high one prayers at dawn, and at dusk shared the divine words with mortal beings, teaching them the universal language, the murmurs of the beasts and the trees. These 5 wise ones were masters of love, for they sacrificed their worthier lives for one undeserving, and gave their branches for homes, their leaves for nutrient, their roots for cradling creatures and plants, but never did they receive reckoning for their service, but reprieve. These 5 wise ones were masters of death, for when their crowns were shaven, their limbs dismembered, their roots set afire, and teachings all but remembered, they were birthed into that otherworldly land, and sing their wisdom still in these earthly winds.
Thanks very much for that. And I must apologize there that I had the label up. I was sorting your videos out early hours in the morning, half asleep. So apologies for that. Title was supposed to just come up for a couple of seconds, but so that's what's going to happen with the next 2. So that was great anyway. And the one thing You don't have a website or a book of your poems. I think you were saying you got a chapbook coming out. Is that right?
I'm perhaps
Soon?
working on it. Currently recording everything I have, and may take some steps to see if I can get this published soon. But so far, nothing yet.
Okay, well, we look forward to when that happens with incredible excitement. Yeah, thank you. And now I'm trying to find my buttons here. We'll come back to you again. We've definitely got two more from you. That's absolutely fantastic. So we'll see you shortly. Right, that's Chandler. And I'm going to carry on with reasons for your tree sanctuary just a little bit more. And then after what you're saying, and there's German loved Chandler's poem there, and certainly Claire Roach as well. Perfect picture and poem. You really get the good sights there. And new one, Sharon Nichols here, which is great to have you on board as well. Thank you as well. But the one thing, as you give an example with your own tree sanctuary there, is, well, that's an obvious one, isn't it? All you need is trees. It clears up polluted soil. The trees not only clean up the air, they clean up the soil as well, and they can often sequester toxins away and degrade them into something less dangerous. You see the gorse, the firs, those still bushes with yellow flowers. People tend to set fire to them, but they're very valuable if they're in a polluted area. They clean up the soil incredibly well. They're like the crows of the soil in a way. And they can deal with pollutants. They can put nitrogen in the soil faster than the orders do. So certainly to be encouraged where there's been mining, it's great to have a lot of the firs around as well. Nature again can clean up. That's the thing. We see that in the radioactive areas. Chernobyl. It's amazing how that's regenerated, isn't it? But also with trees in the area, they absorb sewage, roadside spills. When oil is contaminated runoff, the trees will actually deal with those. And as I say, they deal with polluted air, certainly. Very good for that. Bit of a diagram for that one too. And trees absorb carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, many of the air pollutants that we hear about. And it's estimated that there's healthcare in this as well. Trees are healthcare, very important. And this is one of the reasons people have their little sanctuary, is to breathe again. And urban trees estimated to save hundreds of lives a year in many countries. It's amazing how many, it saves a lot of heartache. All the people that we lose, that we didn't need to lose because of pollution, and the millions that are spent. Well, healthcare loves people spending millions. That's another debate. That's not for these Sunday afternoons. But amazing things happen from trees just removing the pollutants from the air. And another thing as well is muffling noise pollution, and that's a big thing as you go around the M50. Around in Ireland, poor people that live nearby, but they've got trees up, and it does an incredible barrier against noise pollution. And sounds that are outside the forest, they get barrier like this, and the sound fades within the forest, and the muffling effect as well is not only just blocking of sound, but when you're in the woodland and you're in your own tree sanctuary, what you got around you, especially with there's a light breeze around, you get the rustling leaves, and that's calming, isn't it? It's because that's actually, if you wanted to go into physics and being scientific, you're being surrounded by white noise. The rustling leaves is actually white noise, and birdsong is white noise as well, and all those things, they're great for relaxing us and feeling intimate with our surrounding. And just a few extra trees in the garden can cut outside background sound by as much as 50% in relation to what we hear with the human ears. And that's a few more points anyway. Any more? And there's fans of Chandler here, Sharon McNichol, and you got more from as well, and Sherry is enjoying that. So anyway, I'm going to go on to our next guest here, Kate Burrows. She's been on before. last year on the harvest session, she took us around her. It's incredible what Alan and her have done on the land in a short space of time, considering their background, which I'm not going to go into. Things happen very quickly with them. And if I can draw it up, they have built this, I'm trying to line it up here. Yeah, I've got it now. They've got this amazing roundhouse. They used to live in a roundhouse in Somerset. And Kate is a basket maker, and around near Taunton in Somerset is the ideal place for basket makers, really, because you go down the country lanes and just by tradition, you've got all the willows in avenues, and people go along and cut those willows, travelers especially. And so they built themselves a small hobbit house kind of place. It got into newspapers, radio, television, and but eventually, as they do, council knocked it down, just arrived with the bulldozers, boom, that was their home gone. And with the help of their sons who were living in Mayo, I think, and Carrick-on-Shannon, they helped to get established with 5, I think they got 3, I'm not sure if it's 3 to 5 acres and a ruined house. And what they've done amazingly quickly is set this market garden up, and they set up, they needed a workshop space for the basket making because the house wasn't ready. And of course, with COVID, you can't, up until now, you couldn't bring people into a premises, but you could have something with a roof on. So that's what they did. They had this roundhouse with a roof on. And now, as everything's relaxing, they're going to start doing the cob walls. But anyway, this is the progress of this roundhouse, which is also their retreat as well. They love doing pizzas. They got a pizza oven in it. They love doing their suppers. And it's a place they retreat into. It's not, as I say, it's a bit on the edge of what we're doing today. But to me, it is a retreat because they actually use trees that were around them to make this happen. Anyway, I better get on with the video because it explains so much. Here we go. There's Kate and Alan Burrows with the building and the use of their new roundhouse.
So this is our roundhouse that we've just built, and we use Sitka spruce for the frame. It's an open-sided structure with a reciprocal roof that's self-supporting with a hole up the middle. And we've built it to do basket lessons in, which I teach. There's plenty of room. It's nice and open, and it's made from Sitka spruce from the plantation behind us. We put a hessian up there and some builder's plastic on top of that, and then we've put grass turfs on the top. What's the diameter, Alan? It's 6 metres. It feels a lot bigger than that though. And it's not quite finished yet. We've got some more turf to put up and some more wood to put around the edges here. And we had a bit of a party in there the other night that went really well. And the band playing. And we've built an outdoor kitchen next to it here with a pizza oven made out of cob, and Alan's just lined it. We've got a barbecue here made from an old Stanley. We bought the poles from the man who owns the forestry for €5 each when he was thinning it out. We've got a fire in the middle here. It's turned out exactly how we wanted it for making baskets, because the restrictions at the moment say that you're not allowed to teach indoors. So we thought we'd make this open-sided room to teach in all weathers. We hope to close in the sides. I'm also going to make some sheep hurdle type sides to go in each of the gaps, and maybe some felt to hang over the top of those, and we might cob some of them in. It's evolving. We're going to do lots of things up here, lots of different workshops, spoon carving, natural dyeing. Yeah, welcome to our little roundhouse. It only cost, what, a couple €100, Alan? I think we spent €100 on the hessian. And we bought the stakes, the wood, for €5 each. So it's cost next to nothing. We build everything from other people's junk mainly. I got these lovely bits of wood out of the ditch. We've got fairy lights on those that come out at night. I look forward to showing you the next stage when it's a bit more finished. Isn't it zippy?
Well, thanks very much, Kate Burrows, for that. Fabulous. Kate's actually doing workshops at Celt, which is a kind of a craft festival, environmental craft festival down in Clare. So she couldn't be on live today, so she'll be watching that. Someone's did a reaction. Let's see. You're speaking on these. One achievement, says Claire, and there's Sharon, beautiful. Love how it evolves for needs. And Sherry there, love your roundhouse, lovely. The music's amazing. Thank you for sharing. And Donna, what a lovely little roundhouse. So inspiring. A little bit on the edge of what we're covering, but it's all about retreat and sharing the retreat as well. We are going to go into overtime, which is always the case when we bring up trees on this. I hope you don't mind us going into overtime a bit. Got some lovely things coming up. And I carry on with some of the benefits here, because the one thing in association there was a lot about feeding people there, wasn't there? And trees, they feed people. You know, the forest and what grows in the forest, the brambles, especially this time of year. There's always food, and there's hazelnuts in some places and crab apples. And that's the thing, the trees, where there's trees growing, there's all sorts of things going on. There's some bilberries there, but you can get other fruits, nuts, seeds. And of course, let's not forget the sap. Sap's very valuable when we can get that from the birch in spring. And the presence of trees also increases, for those of you who are meat eaters, the presence of game we get amongst the trees, and also with the lochs and the streams that run through the woodlands and forests, fish as well. So there's a lot that can feed us. And of course, the one valuable thing, and this is perhaps the most important that people look for when they got their own tree sanctuary, they're looking for healing. There's some examples. It's just the plants there. We need the sanctuary to get rid of our stress, and that's what sanctuary is about, isn't it? To get away from it all and to regenerate ourselves. It's our sort of generation. We can be a few minutes in our tree sanctuary and then come back amongst the people and be our top selves again. And so this might have, that's more like what we got to do. Survival, keep breathing in our tree sanctuary. And the one thing I still briefly point up, Forest Service, many natural medications, and even the pharma companies, they synthesize spin-offs that come from the forests, so there's no getting away from that. And about 70% of plants with cancer-fighting properties are only available in the rainforest as well. So yet fewer than 1% of tropical rainforest plants have actually been tested for medical benefits. So it's really heartbreaking when these forests are taken down, because obviously the indigenous people are familiar with plants that they use in every day, but for a while, our own use not being investigated. But there again, we're talking about rainforests. Why should we be healing from plants thousands of kilometers and miles away? What have we got around us? How much have we got around us that we've explored for the healing benefits? And that's where it's nice to have a kind of apprenticeship with local plant people, much better than books. I think for when you're dealing with plants, get out and about with people who are familiar with the trees, familiar with the plants, and they can show you what they do with them. And that beats a book anytime in my mind, because it builds a confidence, it builds a trust, and you see the thing in action. So there's a lot we've not explored or we've lost. But then even just a walk in the woods offers health benefits too, of course. There we go. That's another matter about rain. That's another one. But walking in the woods, stress relief, reduced blood pressure, and we get a stronger immune system. The forest bathing practitioners include teaching how some evergreens, and really that was evergreen, even though it was a wet one, wasn't it? About how they release airborne compounds called phytoncides. And there's some, I love this view. These are actually pine trees that are below Ben Bourbon in County Sligo there. And so you walk through that, and then you're getting a good dose of phytoncides. And that there's more pine there. That's wild and natural pine. You'll get a lot of these scenes around Scotland and certainly the north. Some of you watching today from the USA and Canada, that's familiar to you as well. And all this, it prompts our bodies to boost natural killer cells that attack infections. In fact, you hear a lot about the Pfizer and the release of extra T cells. This is what will happen. Obviously, it's not a guarantee, but it's a darn good help to get amongst those evergreens. So we might curse the spruce because they're in the wrong place. But even being amongst them, even though they're killing off a lot of the biodiversity because they're in the wrong place, but we do get personal benefit. And these pines, when they're natural, they are a natural tree of Ireland. So they're welcome home here in a way. But they're great for attacking infections and building up that immune system, increasing the blood cells, giving health to the production of white blood cells. And from that, you get the virus killing cells as well, like the T cells. Anyway, I'm going to introduce more from Chandler Nichols. This is the second one up, which is going to have the name bit all the way through. And I don't need to announce it because it's got the name all the way through. So here we go, part two for Chandler Nichols here.
Silver Maple.
If I can get rid of the picture. There she is.
There one night when the moon was new, strode high among the wildflowers gay. The wind was silent through the hills, yet I heard your voice come away. Away I strode from this modern world, heart heavy as the nightly dew, that pulls the grass down, weeping, weeping, like the willow's arms neath the moonlight new. And there in the darkness cold, without a breeze you danced and waved, and I entranced in your song, heard your voice, come away, come away, come away, come away. I know you hear my voice in the leaves. Come away to the wilds where our souls may be free. Inscribed within the old ways are illuminations sacred to my vow. My wings locked away in silvery flush, and to you I give my bow. And in the dewdrops neath the stars, the leaves once still trembled now, set aflame by the rising sun, turning gold the silver bough. Then all of life's great mysteries down spiraled through the lightened leaves, weaving softly as fallen seeds, and I hear my child, come away, come away, come away. I know you hear my voice in the leaves. Come away to the wilds where our souls may be free. O Virgil guides a healing light, trespass no more on unhallowed ground, and rise above the spirits young who stole your heart and crown. Branch by branch and leaf by leaf, away your spirit flew from me. Farewell to the roots that bound you here, though now your wings fly free. And in the woodlands, in the hills, I hear this voice call ethereally, singing gently, magic still. Away, my love, come away, come away, come away. I know you hear my voice in the leaves. Come away to the wilds where our souls may be free.
Thanks again, Chandler. Brilliant. And we've still got one more from Chandler, which is fantastic. But to move along here with the benefits, there is one. And we saw a bit of that with Alan and Kate. There's the making of craft materials. This is actually a collection of pictures from a friend of mine, Philip Cronell, who actually lives in a mobile home in the middle of his 17-acre woodland. And he just takes trees from his woodland, and he's built a workshop basically from nothing, almost like a roundhouse like what Alan and Kate made. And it just had a roof for a while, and eventually, as he made money, he did the walls. But beautiful work. He's somewhere, Phil Cornell, and I haven't got a website up for him. Anyway, it's just to show you can make crafts if you've got trees around you. It's a fantastic thing. And of course, for hundreds of years, we've used woodland renewable resources, making paper as well, and also for homes. And that's why I showed Kate now, and clothing. And even hemp grows in the wood, and we can make clothing from that. But the thing is, as I'm trying to illustrate, the lovely thing from starting with the intimacy of our tree sanctuary, we don't get carried away. There is an increasing population, of course, and that might lead to overuse of land, deforestation. Faster, the deforestation is faster than forest replacement, and we get a little bit anxious about that, don't we? But sustainable forestry through tree farming is quite a debate. You know, we're seeing a lot of this. Is this really good? To say, possibly in this situation too, 75% of them just won't mature because nature hasn't had enough involvement in it. Anyway, I'm going to bring you on quickly to our next guest. She's not on today, but she'll look later. She's got her own guests at home, but lives amongst some trees, absolutely passionate about trees. And I'm trying to find out where her video is. And it's somewhere here. Sinead McClure, we've had her poetry on before. Absolutely beautiful. So here it is. She'll introduce herself and her thoughts on her tree sanctuary. Beautiful place, again, quite local to where Carracrory is. As crow fly, she's only 2 kilometers away. Anyway, Sinead McClure.
Hi, and thanks for joining me again. If you've joined me before, thanks to John for inviting me back to this wonderful session about trees as tree sanctuaries. And it's an important day, I think, an important session for a variety of reasons. One being that I just love trees. Trees been important to me before I knew they were important to me. I remember as a child running up the backs of Killiney Hill to find the tree where my father had pared his initials on in the 1930s, and finding that tree and being joyful and excited about that and looking for it again over the years. And as a young teenager, going up with friends and hugging trees. And later on, as an adult, I took part in a protest against tree felling in County Wicklow, where they were going to destroy a very ancient oak forest. Those woods were saved, thankfully, as part of Cullatin Woods. You may know of them. Other trees haven't been saved. What took over in place of deciduous trees is quite evident where I live, because we have what are termed plantation forest. You may see now, just there behind me, all those trees. Well, they're Scots pine and Japanese spruce. We have some that turn autumnal. The spruce turn autumnal into a lovely orange colour. Quite pretty to look at. Actually, that forest, I walk into that forest and I get something from walking up there, even if it's not a deciduous wood. It still offers me something. And that plantation, there is controversy about these types of forests, and that is because of the lack of biodiversity. I took you down here, this part of where I live, because in March of last year I got very angry about plans for a development which is going up just here, right down there. I would say about 700 metres, 0.7 of a kilometre away from here. And that is a communications tower, 120 foot. Planning permission has been given, unfortunately, for that. I say unfortunately, other people might welcome it. You know, we live rurally, people need those connections, but I've lived 20 years here with very poor broadband connection. This mast would be for mobile broadband, not for fixed or satellite or any other type of broadband. So they're fairly huge, you know, and they broadcast over a wide range of an area, and someone is going to get them. There's a few gone up in Sligo itself, more of them will go up. But in anger over that, I just took a Figari one day. I was down here and I stomped back up and I said, I'm going to plant a tree a week for a year. Now, obviously, there was something in myself and Joe's head, because we had already purchased 2 fairly decent-sized oak trees to plant, and one of those was for our family, both present and past, and the other, which was a red oak, was for all the people who've touched our lives in a positive way. And then we had one more tree that I wanted to buy, which was a magnolia tree for all the creative people we've met in our lives. So we planned to plant these anyway, but I was looking to plant, well, another 49 trees. So I wasn't really thinking of the magnitude of it until the Tree Council of Ireland approached us and offered us 200 bare root trees for the project, 100 oak and 100 birch. I was delighted to get them. But when they arrived, with the excitement, we got digging, and over a few weeks during lockdown, we got the trees in the ground. Now, Joe had a great idea to put gold ribbons on the oak and green ribbons on the birch, and this because they were so small, and we were planting them at the time this area wasn't as grown. It's not as grown now as it was over the summer, but we get a lot of meadowsweet here. We get all sorts of other tall grasses and plants. So we knew that perhaps it'd come a time where these trees are going to disappear under all that. So the little ribbons might shine out when we needed to spot them. So that was the plan. Anyway, we're 25 weeks now, which is almost half a year, and we found that many of the oaks have failed, possibly because we were late getting them into the ground. We got a terrible frost, early summer frost, and there's only a certain period, well, there's a long period of the year where you can plant, but we were just outside of that. But all the birch have come on from what we can see, and we have a few oak. We've planted, because there were so many, we planted some further up in another field, and I also snuck a few in different parts of the area near where that plantation forest is, where no one maybe will find them until they're fully grown. That's what I hope. So this is one here. You'll see Deacon in the background. That's a birch. It's a small birch, that one. We have bigger. Some of them are 5 foot, some of them are about 3.5. The oak are very small. The ones that have come on are very tiny, but they're a slower growing tree anyway. So as we move now into October, November, we'll start planting what would be the rest of what had initially been our 52 trees. And a lot of that comes from what we have in the garden here. We have a lot of alder, oat willow behind me, sycamore, hazel. Hazel's a big tree of this area. Sligo would have had a lot of hazelwoods. This area is known as Kilnahari, which we think is either Harry's Wood or Harry's Church. I think it's probably a bit of both, but I'd say Harry's Wood. It would have been a lot of trees up here. Brought you up here just so you can see that sycamore a bit more clearly behind me. And I'm going to read a couple of poems. The first is about the sycamore. Trees feature a lot in my writing. This is called Helicopterus. It takes a breath of breeze to send me tumbling through the air. After birdfoot trefoil's yellow talons pin me to this earth. Come spring I sprout as tiny shoots, try to stick as ivy does to bark, to study the pattern of trees, the alder, hazel and willow, but I always grow as sycamore. Moving this way, so you can see this girl in the background, that's Ruby, that's Deacon, we've already seen. This next poem is about trees we've planted to remember people, and it's called Bring It With You. I touch the alder, it has grown with us, straight and strong, though we are soon to bend. My hand warm against the damp bark, I remember missing friends. Bring it with you. At the eucalyptus, the scent reminds me of Killiney. I ask mind my mother as I break a leaf and breathe it in. Bring it with you. Then to the wild corner, your daddy's roan at last is getting tall, no donkeys to chew it into submission or clear the whips of bramble. Bring it with you. In the top yard I regret the walnut and the almond for your mam and my dad as they battle the hilly weather. Ruby drops the tennis ball, backs up in her border collie way, prepares to run. And that's what she wants to do now, so I'm going to leave you. Thanks very much, John, for inviting me. Happy birthday to you. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Well, thank you, Sinead. Absolutely beautiful there. There we go. Wonderful. That's wonderful. And one thing I think was pointed out there is how trees are really very much the pillar of our society, aren't they? Pillar of our communities. Trees, woodlands and forests, everything, put everything together. We don't really appreciate this until they're gone. And that's, I think, what people are thinking about right now. They're the main earth setting for life on our land. And so I cannot see how humans can survive without them. There's the growing pictures of our tree sanctuary, the tree labyrinth garden there at Carracroy. So I think we need to be responsible, at least if we don't have one, a tree sanctuary for our own well-being, our own connection, be totally responsible for this. And a personal tree sanctuary, absolutely essential as such. And they help us to explore, like this person, explore, relax, be inspired. And there seems to be a buzzword, biophilia. There's a bit of biophilia. It's said to be trees are an invisible enchantment that draws us to them, draws us through the trees, the woods, and the forests. Biophilia is when the trees call us to rejuvenate ourselves. And by exploring and wandering and unwinding within their wordness, of course, we call that enchantment of the she or the fairy folk. And I think this enchantment, it serves us a sense of wonder, and we have questions that we can never answer, and we're invigorated. We're invigorated, treading wild frontiers molded by our ancestors. And after that bit of waffle here, we got one more from Chandler Nichols, and then we'll have a quick word with her live. And let's see if I can find the third one. This is Chandler's third one, I think. I hope it is. I'm kind of getting lost here. We had we had the maple. We had now. I might not have brought it. It might not have come on. So I'm going to have to start from the beginning with Chandler with your part 3. And this is the Song of the Phoenix, and it should come up right now. Let's see if we can get it going. No, it's not there. Where is it? The Song of the Phoenix, please. Yeah, I think we got it now.
Song of the Phoenix. As the warm sun turned to bitter wind, and the frosts of winter would soon begin, a turbulence brewed of cloud and rain, and life, as I knew it, would suddenly change. Solitude, sweet solitude, is quiet with peace. But aloneness is different. On my soul it would feast. Every shadow was welcoming and slowly crept past. In the desolate plains, nothing but ash. But then spring came, and you awoke from your slumber, stretched your branches high, let the sun warm your lumber. At your base, on your roots, I would sit and feel free, with all of my troubles at last leaving me. I hung chimes around your trunk and told you my thoughts about how happy that place made me in times so distraught. Your home, a field, grew roses, bushes, and magnificent trees, and brought me so much joy and inspired new dreams. I feel he used you to talk to me and bring back a soul through the soft words of a tree. It was then you dropped a branch before my eyes that depicted a phoenix. From the ashes I would rise. You reminded me I am a firebird rising from the dire. I took to the sky on my brilliant wings of fire and kept that branch so to others I would tell to rise from the darkness as ever they fell. I was happy in that sanctuary you provided for me, listening to the song that blew through all of the trees. I knew every bush, flower, and blade of grass to the end. But all in all, you, a tree, were my best friend. My troubles were over, my heart was mended. Every day in your sanctuary was so perfectly splendid. I wrote stories and painted of distant shores with dragons and griffins, druids and orcs. That land, your home, was not mine by judgment of man. For I owned it not with money, but with a loving heart and caring hand. Half was taken away from me and from you, and they had no intention of preserving it too. 3 of our friends were slaughtered and plowed. So fell the oak, a century old, that once stood tall and proud. 2 maples, the roses, the daffodils too, were relentlessly taken from me and you. A barren wasteland was all that was left, But it was not until they harmed you did I truly become upset. Half of your mighty crown was cut away. I cried in the night, and by your trunk I stayed. I gave you my word that I would always protect you. But that dreadful night I failed what I promised to do. Winter was approaching, and with our friends dead, half of the sanctuary would never grow again. As a 2-story house was built on that tiny lot, while we sat together still, watching our friends' corpses rot. The cold came again, but before you would sleep, I ran my hand down your bark, feeling no need to weep. We're not so different, you and I, so set your wings afire, Phoenix, and fly. When the spring came once more, when you finally should wake, under your leaves I will still write and paint, for new life will bloom, and though it was not long, I thank you for showing me nature's most beautiful song.
Wonderful. That's lovely as a conclusion from you. Thanks very much. Thanks very much for that indeed. Having you back again, as I say, Chandler, and for hanging on. Gorgeous selection there, and seems to be comments galore for you. Marcella Gillick is on board. Kate Cloud Sparks, they're loving that. It's fantastic. And I got to rush away now because we got one more guest. We got Edward Durand, and I've got a bit of an introduction first. So thanks again. I look forward to when you join us again, Chandler. Thanks very much.
Thank you as always.
Thank you. Right. Now we've really got one more guest. We are running serious overtime, but I suppose Edward's a bit of a philosopher. Anyway, excuse me for that. And according to Vedanta philosophy, there's 2 symptoms of enlightenment. And let's bring this up. I love this from the forest here. Just 2 indications confirm transformations taking place. That happens within us towards what they say is a higher consciousness. Now, the first symptom is you stop worrying. If you stop worrying, things just don't bother you anymore, do they? And you become lighthearted, full of joy. And the second symptom is that you encounter more and more meaningful coincidences, that you actually accept those coincidences actually happen, and that all those synchronicities. So those 2 things are the indications that a transformation, that's what's said in this philosophy, is taking place towards us, within us, towards achieving that higher consciousness that we might be looking for. So this accelerates to the point where we actually discover the miraculous when we have those 2 benefits. Anyway, I'm going to move on, and we got one more poet, a lovely short one. It's kind of revision by Edward. He's had this poem before, but he's made a new recording of Living with Trees, and that's
Living with trees. When I enter the wild woods, the trees rustle a greeting. Here everything is understood. I am home. The space that glows between the trees, a space where elementals dance, a space for magic and mystery. I am home. Then I enter a space inside, where man's world of illusion dissolves, and my true self doesn't need to hide. I am home. Hazel drops a nut at my feet, a kernel of wisdom to nourish me, a stone smiles to help crack the mystery. I am home. I see the faces in the trees, and dancing arms that are so free, the dryads coming to greet me. I am home. I enter a space where everything grows, where moist nature is so alive and conscious and everything flows. I am home. The world outside is but a dream. This is the true reality, and everything here shines and gleams. I am home. The sun is breaking through the clouds, which mottled leaves let in sparkling. and gone are all the mental shrouds. I am home. The leaves and moss squidge under my feet, a soft carpet of comfort and ease. My feet delight to meet with these. I am home. The wild wood intertwines as one, all parts work in harmony. Under the eyes of the moon and the sun, I am home. All trees connecting underground, connecting to earth, sun and moon. In roots their unity is found. I am home. Behind her resplendent hair, my priestess willow with radiant grace shines many blessings that she shares. I am home. The trees they grow proclaiming life, reaching upwards to the sun. In their wood wide web there is no strife. I am home. The trees shelter and comfort me, reaching out with hope to the light. With myriad verdant leaves, I am home. I will listen to the sacred trees, feel their clarity and ease, and hear them whispering on the breeze. I am home. The trees bridge to the other world, a million wooden obelisks. Their natural power is unfurled. I am home. Trees are my nourishment, my air, my art, my medicine, my heart. They inspire me to become aware. I am home. The trees they stand in majesty, their flowers open to the day. Here all is as it should be. I am home. Under the trees, held in their presence, moved by these majestic guardians, I am blown away by their lessons. I am home. I am rooted in the sacred earth. I grow spiraling to the giving light. My fruit has seeds to give me rebirth. I am home. My heart flowers open to the sun. The sap quickens within me. I hold the space for everyone. I am home. The thorn at my side opens my heart with delicate blossoms that smile. This fairy tree wisdom does impart. I am home. A place where arms reach out to greet me. A place where all beings are at peace. A place where all the trees complete me. I am home.
Thank you very much, Edward. Thanks very much for that. So, in your tree sanctuary that you have, do you feel you are at home? So a great point of that, and I'm trying to find that picture has come up, the enchantment of it, and I think that sort of sums up what I've been hoping we've been sharing this afternoon with our tree sanctuary. The autumn edition. Sorry, I hope that wasn't too loud for you. I hadn't balanced the audio on that, so I hadn't got to that. So beautifully done. Edward does have, I said, look out to the Lulu. He hasn't got a website anymore. I couldn't find it. He has a beautiful collection of poems on nature. And you search Edward Durand Lulu on the Lulu. Just put that in Google. Edward Durand Lulu. You'll get to his page with his beautiful poetry that's available on Lulu. That's the best action we can get it. And before I tell you what's coming up in the next couple of weeks, there's Claire Roach saying her message is not coming up here. There we go. Thank you, Edward. Beautiful words. That's Sharon McNichol. Claire there. Gosh, Edward, very moving. Thank you for sharing a beautiful poem. Isn't that perfect to sort of round us up? Chandler, definitely like an angel. And Sherry Murphy, Edward, thank you. Claire Roaches, thank you for Chandler. And Sharon McNichol, thank you, Chandler. Look forward to your poetry book one day, hopefully. And then all these lovely hearts that people have been putting up. And then let's not forget Sinead, Claire Roach on Sinead here. Amazing story. I hope the trees shield a view from the mast. Progress can be so painful. You're enabling a wonderful antidote, and that's what this is about. Thank you for that, Claire. And Sharon, beautiful Sinead, great idea to plant away negativity. And Chandler, thank you for sharing your tree planting journey, poetry, and adorable border collies. Yes, I'm glad you noticed the dogs. They're beautiful collies there. And Shan, poetry is beautiful, Sinead. And another fan here, Mirella Gardenia Ferran. Thank you for speaking. Beautiful poetry, storyteller indeed. And we have Mirella has enjoyed Chandler as well, which is thank you very much. And from Sharon McNichol, mesmerizingly beautiful Chandler, magical words, voice, listen all day. Well, she's on quite a lot of the nature folklore, which is fantastic. Always welcome here, and just love that. Chandler from Claire Roach. And what's going on here? I adore the roundhouse, and that's had all of that. So what's coming up? What have we got coming up? Next week is one of my favorites. This is Apple Month, and so being Apple Month, we got Apple Folklore, and also the people that run the Clonmel Apple Fest. We're going to have some people from that. They'll be on with us next week as well, and tell us what's going on there. The Organic Centre in Leitrim, they're not having their Apple Day, because I tried to time this in with that and hope that they would be with us for that. But no, we're going to have some lovely Apple stories, Avalon stories, and there's a picture of Avalon and Glastonbury, the Glastonbury tour, with some apples that are actually growing at the bottom of them. And that's coming up on the 19th, isn't it? That's next week. Then the 26th, Orm is always very popular here. So the Orm series, it's the Orm Stone Stories. They're back again. That's on the 26th. And then the 4th of October, something new. This is the start of the 6 weeks of Swan Sunday sessions. And this one is Hubble Bubble, Witches and Ales. Yes, I said it right. Hubble Bubble, Witches and Ale. That's for you on the 4th of October. Anybody got any other words? I think we've covered all in your comments. Thank you so much for all of you being here. It is extended. It is one of the longest. I kind of expected it as it would do, being a tree celebration, and all those lovely guests that we've had. So it's really thank you again. There was Simon Masters right at the start there, and right, let's get it going. We had Kate and Alan Burrows with their lovely adventure, Sinead McClure with her lovely story amongst the trees and those beautiful poems, Chandler Nichols with her very enchanting poems right there in the woods, and we actually got her live as well, which was fabulous. And sorry it was late, but Edward Durand, really, that was a perfect poem to sort of conclude what this is all about. Tree Sanctuaries, using our Tree Sanctuary as our base for our inspiration, and that inspiration not only for our poetry and our art and our crafts, but how we approach our relationship with trees and our landscape, and if we don't have our own little tree sanctuary, how can we understand about tree planting? That's the thing I think I'm putting across, if anything. So again, if you're watching this broadcast, as most people do in the evenings and through the week, I'm amazed how many people are now watching. Our circulation is just going up and up, and mainly from late viewers. So keep your comments going. I do answer them. Subscribe. There's a bell on the YouTube, might be on the Facebook. That lets you know what's coming up the weeks ahead. So it's up to me to, I'm just have a wonderful week. I hope this has been inspiring today, that you'll think and you'll love your tree sanctuaries and trees around you. I'd enjoy all those inspirations and enchantments are bound to come to you. So until next Sunday, thank you for being, I enjoyed presenting this to you. I hope you enjoyed this as well. So that's all I've got today. Thank you so much for holding on. It was a long one, but I loved it. And I love you being in the company. Thank you so much. Thank you.